Greetings, YouTube. For the past few months, I've been seeing a cognitive therapist. I'm trying to work out some issues with depression, anxiety, and communication. And a cognitive therapist uses the cognitive behavior therapy method. In a nutshell, cognitive therapy is the concept that what you think affects how you feel. That's the basic concept right there. That we have negative thought models, negative thoughts that pop into our head automatically, automatic thoughts. And cognitive therapy helps us to put the lie to what we put the truth to that lie, to show us that those automatic thoughts, that those negative thought patterns are not telling us the truth. I'll give you an example. I'm always screwing up. Now, how many people have had that automatic thought? You drop a dish. You don't take the right corner when you're driving somewhere. You don't get an A+, you get an A. And you're saying, oh, I always screw up. Well, that's an automatic thought. It's a negative thought. It isn't helping you. Cognitive therapy says, look at that thought. Are you always screwing up? I mean, always. Every single time you do something, do you screw up? And of course, that isn't the truth, is it? You don't screw up every single time you do something. If you did, you'd probably be dead. And it's a simple concept. It deals with practical issues out here in the real world, where the rubber meets the road. It doesn't concern itself so much with why do we do these things. You will eventually work your way through them to find the heart of a matter. But you need to be able to fix the issues you've got right now. And that's what the cognitive behavior therapy process does. It works with solving the problems you have right now to help you be free of anxiety and depression and to improve your communication skill, so you can hopefully eventually figure out the root of the issue and then solve that as well. And as part of that therapy, my therapist wanted me to read this book, the Feeling Good Handbook, right there by Dr. Burns. And that's his picture, and yes, he's a smiley kind of a son of a gun. Okay? This is a big book. It took me weeks to get through. And there's a lot of exercises in here, so it's not even all that. It's not even solid text, thankfully. But there's still a whole lot of meat in this book to deal with. I will admit that a couple of chapters that dealt with antidepressant and anti-anxiety drugs and their side effects, I skipped those. I don't take those drugs. I have not taken any kind of medication like that since I was 14 and didn't like the results, so I stopped taking it. And I have no plans on ever taking any of that kind of medication. So, skip those chapters. I don't need them. If I ever decide to go on to any kind of a medication like that, I can always use this as a reference. I plan on keeping this book. It's very useful. And what I like about the way Dr. Burns presents this is he presents it in a very practical way. He says, Steve had this problem. This is how I help Steve solve this problem. And he comes out with dialogue. He discusses specific methods. He has a number of different methods in the book. It's not just one tool. He's not presenting you with, this is how you're going to solve every problem. No, he gives you an entire selection of how you're going to look at problems in different ways until you find the key that unlocks that problem. Because until you get that paradigm exact, until you find how to look at that problem from the correct angle, it's going to be a mystery to you. But if you look at it in enough different ways, eventually you will find a way of solving it. Now you're going to ask me, has it helped? And the answer is yes. Just talking to my therapist, and I'm still in therapy, and reading this book has helped. It has helped me to understand my anxieties. It has helped me to understand my depression, and it has helped me to alleviate my depression. Now, I'm not miraculously cured. This is work. It's effort. But just taking on those negative automatic thoughts that I have so far in the last 2 months has lifted shadows from my eyes that I have carried around with me for 46 years, my whole life. And the world looks brighter than it used to. And I'm looking forward to it getting brighter still. I'm looking forward to becoming better at communicating with people, with being more efficient with how I interact with people, online and in person, with having the bravery to step forward and make those connections with people that make us happier, that bring us more joy in our lives, that help us to feel good. This is not an easy book. It's going to challenge how you think about yourself. That's the very heart of cognitive therapy. You're going to have to look at yourself in ways that you've never looked at before. You're going to have to start questioning every single negative thought you've got, and that's how you take it on. You don't try to take on the mountain. You take on one step at a time. You've got a problem right now, work on that problem right now. He gives an example in here of someone he was giving therapy to as a college student, going for a major test. I believe it was for law school. Yeah, it was law school. And she was convinced that she was going to flunk this test. Absolutely convinced. She was going to him to get a waiver so that she could take the waiver to school and say that she was given permission to skip the test and she'd take the course again. Because she just could not do it. She could not study. She could not function in this test. Absolutely paralyzed with anxiety. He says, okay, what's the problem? She says, I can't study. Every time I study, the words just blur on the page. He said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to read the page. She says, I can't concentrate. I said, then read a paragraph. She's like, it makes no sense to me. He said, then read a line. She says, the words make no sense. He said, I don't care. He said, I want you to bring your eyes along each and every one of those letters. One word at a time. Then the next word. Then the next word. Then the next word. He said, and then when you're done all that, I want you to take the test. She says, well, there's no way I can write that. He says, I'll make gibberish. It'll make no sense. He says, then make gibberish. Just write down anything you can think of. He says, what if I can't think of a line? He said, then just make something. Put it down one word. She said, what if I can't think of one word? He said, then just throw some letters together on the paper. So she agrees to do it, goes and studies for the week, takes the test, comes back, and she's furious. She's absolutely livid. He said, what happened? He said, I took the test. I did horribly. He said, well, what'd you get for grade? She said, I haven't got my grade yet. And he looked at her and he said, why don't we wait till you get your grade? So she gets her grade, and she passes with flying colors. The professor says she had the best essay in the entire class. She was reading those words. She was writing that essay. Her anxiety was in the way. Not her skill, not her ability. Her anxiety was in the way. Her negative thoughts, her negative patterns were preventing her from achieving her goal, not her skill. Now, if she failed, doesn't mean the process didn't work. She just couldn't have been a good student. But it did work. Her anxiety was crippling her. He helped her get beyond it. He helped her show that you can work around it, through it. And that's a practical thing. And that's the important part for me. This book gave practical, concrete examples, dozens and dozens of them, of how real people solved relationship problems and anxiety problems and depression, how they overcome things that kept them from seeing the world the way it really is, from enjoying the life that they have, from having the relationships with their friends and their family and their loved ones and their children. And yes, you're going to say, oh, you're just blowing this out of proportion. No, I'm not. I'm telling you true. I have lots of work to do. I am going to be slogging through this problem for years to come. But you know something? I'm gonna solve every single last problem. And I'm not gonna stop until I do. And this book has put me into the frame of mind to realize that there is a solution, that there is hope, that there is something else besides spending the rest of my bloody life wrapped in anxiety and depression and not being able to communicate to the people I love. And I don't think I can give a book a better reference than that. I used to tell people that Reviving Ophelia, which is an awesome book, by the way, was the best book I'd ever read when it came to solving problems. Well, this one beats it. I still recommend Reviving Ophelia, and interestingly enough, my therapist never read it, and I gave her a copy. I actually keep copies of Reviving Ophelia in my apartment. I buy them at thrift shops and yard sales, and I hand them to people because it's a book that every single woman in the world should read, and every parent of a child that is female should read. It really helps to understand about how society, Western society, can warp the world view of adolescent girls. And this book is better. I'm not going to be probably giving out these copies. They're much more expensive. I think I paid $7 or $8 for this used. I can pick up copies of Reviving Ophelia usually for $1. But I do plan on giving this to other people. I have a list of people I think could benefit from it. So if you suffer from anxiety or depression, if you have communication issues that you're dealing with at work, in your relationships, amongst your family members, read this book. It's going to challenge you. It's going to make you think things that you don't want to think about. It's going to push you, but it's going to offer you real, functional solutions to them. It's going to help you put the truth to the lie. You are not your negative patterns. I am not my depression. I'm James. And I am a better person today than I was 2 months ago.